Good morning, sense of things. It's great to see you again. It's Jeff and Ron here once again for another episode of The Sense of Things. And today I'm going to share a few funny statistics with you that you may or may not know. We're also going to talk about on this episode the yen carry trade. This is something that, with the market drop that we've seen this week, this has been something that's behind the scenes. And to be honest with you, it was totally off of my radar until I heard it, and then I needed to dig in and find out a little bit about what was going on, and I hadn't understood how big of a deal this actually was, to affecting some of the things that we've seen going on in the markets. So we'll cover that today on the show, so stick around. We'll be right back. Good morning, sense of things. Hey, Ron, how you doing, my friend?
Morning, Jeff. I've said it I don't know, 2 or 3 dozen times already. Never a dull moment in the markets and the
Nope.
economy and the world. I finally had a chance to watch a little bit of the Olympics. I haven't watched much live though. I really wanted to watch the 100-yard
Yep.
and I missed it, but I saw the replay. Just incredible.
Women's 200 last night was one of the best races I've ever seen.
Mm.
Oh my god, it was just I was up on my chair screaming about it. It was just fantastic. I think our men in the long distance stuff, the 1500, the 10,000, I love the track and field parts. So those are always my favorite. And some of the oddball ones like the hammer throw and the shot put and the discus and stuff like that. Those are all just I love track and field events. So this is
That's what started the Olympics.
yep.
They got break dancing as an Olympic sport
I'm
now.
still trying to figure that out, and skateboarding, and the average age of the medal stand for skateboarding, I think, was 15 years old. So it's just absolutely insane.
Yeah, but Jeff, I got to tell you, they're all incredible athletes. I'm
Yep.
not going to knock it because I know we got to move on here. But I always had a problem with the Olympic sports that you're judged,
Yeah.
gymnastics, you go diving. Things happen so quick, and one person is 1/1000th.
Yep.
I never understood that. Incredible. But the one thing I could never get into is the synchronized and the artistic swimming.
Yes. Yep.
There's a lot going on under the water. The judges are above water. What? I don't get it.
I don't
I don't
understand.
get it.
I, I saw the American team, they don't even call it synchronized swimming anymore. They call
It's
it something
artistic
new.
swimming. That's what they're
Yeah,
calling it.
artistic swimming. And so I was watching and the girls come out or the women come out and they're doing this. And I'm thinking to myself, all I can think of is the scene from like the third Harry Potter movie when the other teams come in from other campuses and the girls are like, "Ah, da, da," and it was like, that's exactly what it seemed like coming
Maybe
out. I'm
that's where they
like,
got the idea
it's
from.
just this weird Harry Potter thing coming on. I don't get it. There are some sports I just don't understand. I watched the heavyweight wrestling, the Greco-Roman. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Where the one guy who's literally won 5 gold medals in a row after 20 years of doing this, and he retired. And just those guys are just so insanely talented. But I am a huge, just unbelievable Olympics junkie. So I've watched every day of the Olympics. I even watched the 6 hour long men's road race, 172 miles, and then watched the women's one the next day. I watched the end of that one, but yeah, it just, I love it. I love that sport and the just how people train for years and do this. But even you see the basketball players, the pride that they have in playing for their country. These are multimillionaires, but the pride that they have playing for their country,
I agree.
you
I
know,
agree.
and how diametrically opposed the Tokyo Olympics, which were like a ghost town, to this one where the
Well, it was
French
COVID
just
3
put
years ago.
on one hell of a show. And they've been out at every event and they cheer whether you're now if you're French, they're going to cheer a lot louder, but it doesn't matter what country you come from, they're going to cheer like crazy for you if you're doing well.
Absolutely.
So
Now
it's
listen,
been
I
a
know the
one.
pride and whatever. I
Yeah.
I will say I just haven't had the time, but I know the decathlon, I think, started a couple of days
Yep.
ago, so I'm gonna try to watch some of that. It's
It's
just tough.
almost done. It
What
started
a s
the
Actually, what I have is I have an 8 or 9-hour difference.
yeah.
So I'm watching it at night. I got YouTube TV, so I got a 4-screen multi-view. I don't have Paramount Plus, and I refuse to get it, but it's pretty cool. Oh, I gotta tell you very quickly, I watched ping pong last night. It was
Wow.
Japan versus the Taipei. I was a competitive ping pong player.
Okay.
I was good. There were people that with
These are
this
on yeah.
that were just unbelievable. These guys were incredible. These guys were whacking. I was just like, it was so fast. It almost looked like it was like 2, 3 times speed
Yep.
that they were playing. It was
I even watched a match of the badminton stuff and I'm like, I don't remember that. The people whacking stuff around like that when I was playing badminton as a kid. But yeah, these now admitting that you're a professional badminton player or an Olympic level badminton
that's a
player,
badge of honor.
maybe whatever it is,
Listen,
somebody's
I'd
got to.
rather be saying I competed in badminton than breakdancing. I'm just
Yes,
saying.
I'm right there with you. There was one of the, and I'll get off of this and onto my stuff in a minute, but there was one of the or the Chinese men's gymnasts, and I was laughing my head off because he was doing a floor routine, and he finished his tumbling pass, and he literally landed, and then he fell forward on his head, and I'm like, dude, if you would have just gone into a breakdancing head spin at that moment, they would have never known that that you'd messed up. You just do that little one where your legs are twisted and you spin on your head. He was in the perfect position to do it, and he screwed it up.
If you and I would have gotten down on the ground to do that, we may have been able to a part of it, but we would have been able to get up.
That's the problem. Yeah, that's the issue with it. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to get up and do that, and I don't want to ever. I don't want to have that capability.
All right, what do you got?
Let's kick this off. I came up with a few fun facts or funny statistics that I thought were rather funny. This one I think is hilarious because it just tells me why Americans are terrible at math. So, the average American believes they are smarter than the average American. According to a study by the National Journal, 55% of people said that they thought they were smarter than the average American, while 35% thought that they were just as smart as everyone else.
And probably they're
So
comparing themselves to their neighbors, so that's not much of a sampling.
90% think that they're at least average or better. Okay, I'm telling you right now, you're not. And I deal with a lot of people on a daily basis who definitely are not. Now, those of you listening to this channel, you're up in that top 55%. We're just going to go with that. We know you are because you listen to our channel. America is as a TV addicted nation. More people would have difficulty giving up watching TV and streaming shows for 40 days than the number of people that struggle to give up alcohol, chocolate, soda, and fast food over that same time period. And I totally believe that.
Before you go on, I had to look up the quote
Uh,
talking about the percentages. Just go back to the first slide. I'll be quick.
yep.
Yogi Berra, who had some of the greatest quotes of all time, he said, baseball's 90% mental, the other half is physical.
The other half is physical. Yep. That exactly the same
Actually, the
thing.
way I was going to do it, I had it the other way around, but I had to look it up. Yeah, go
That
on.
is awesome. That is awesome. Yeah. We need to do a world according to Yogi.
Yogi and Ralph Kiner had some great ones too.
I don't even know who that is.
Oh my God, really?
Nope.
We'll have to have a baseball talk some other time.
All right. How self-centered is this planet? 1 in 4 Americans surveyed thought that the sun goes around the earth. Elementary school science teachers everywhere are shaking their heads. So let's set the record straight. The earth goes around the sun. That basic fact might
I
hold
wonder
still.
we're getting killed by the Asian culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jeez.
They at least get the basics of just quantum mechanics and everything.
Listen, that doesn't surprise me considering how many people think that there's the flat earthers.
Oh, yeah. Yep. There's about 10%, 10 to 20% of people think
I
that
think
we're
we
having
talked
on a
about
flat
that
earth.
one time.
Yeah. So that would explain why the sun rotates around the earth because we're on a flat earth. Yes,
Yeah.
you are getting more robocalls. Nearly half of all phone calls, about 80% of mine, are in the form of robocall. How annoying. Hopefully, this statistic will decrease dramatically going forward. I don't see that happening. It's just horrible. And this is my favorite statistic of all. Harvard may actually be our safety plan. Getting into Harvard may be difficult, but getting a job at Walmart is actually harder. According to Business Insider, the acceptance rate at Harvard is 5.2%. But when Washington, D.C. got its very first Walmart, over 23,000 applicants applied for just
Awesome.
600 jobs, a 2.6% acceptance rate for Walmart jobs, nearly twice as the selective Harvard. So, Walmart, the Harvard of Washington, D.C.
You play a sport, do you get a better chance of getting a job at
I
Walmart?
think you probably could. You'd be on the company baseball team or the company basketball team or something like that. I don't know. I think you had a better shot. You may have had to do an essay on why you wanted to work at Walmart or whatever. All right. So I'm going to walk through the yen carry trade. So this is something that it was something that it came to my attention. I know it came to Ron's attention over the last 4 to 5 days. This is something that I honestly don't really follow. I think I probably will follow it a little closer now, just add another level of things because it does affect the market. So, what is a carry trade? So, in the case of the yen carry trade, it involves borrowing the yen or any other currency that has really low interest rates. And we'll go through the chart for the yen here. And in fact, I'm going to blow my screen up a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. Um, yeah, this will show it to you a little bit better because this one chart's not great, but it basically involves borrowing the yen at really super low rates and then turning around and buying US dollars, Mexican pesos, New Zealand dollars. And you're not buying dollars per se, you're buying the bonds of those countries. So simple. I buy it or borrow at super low interest rates. Japan, anywhere from 0.10 to 0.25%. Then you turn around and you buy a 10-year US Treasury at 5%. And that has worked for quite a while here because Japan's interest rates, if you look at them, this goes back to 1973.
Yeah,
The highest they were ever at was just a little over 8.5%. They got back up to 8.5%. Then we went into the 1990s where the Japanese economy just literally imploded upon itself. They had so overbuilt, they were leveraged all over the world. If you look at those at Ron's and my favorite movies from like the 90s, you had all these movies about the Japanese businessmen and they were coming in and they were the most powerful in the world. Their economy in the early 90s going into the late 90s just imploded upon itself and their interest rates went down to virtually zero. Had a little spike up before 2008 and then it's been literally flat since that time. And then all of a sudden you see this little bump up here that's happened in 2023 and 2024. And that's part of the issue that's happened. Now, the Bank of Japan just raised interest rates from 0.1% to 0.25%. 0.25%. Okay. Our rates are well in the sixes or in the fives. They're at 0.25%. But when you are highly leveraged to that little move can make a big difference. But the biggest difference that it makes is here. Starting off the year. So this is the US dollar to the yen. All right. So beginning this year, this carry trade piled on. The dollar was increasing to the yen, which meant it was getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to go borrow that money at super low rates until the Japanese bumped up, the Bank of Japan bumped up their interest rates to 0.25%. And you look at the precipitous drop in the dollar over this very short period of time throughout the month of July. And we started to see the US market peak in early July, and it's been slowly eking its way down. And then we saw this super precipitous drop over those last few days. This is a major factor. If you put a chart of the S&P 500 versus this, it's not as dramatic, but these days are really dramatic. So what's happening?
Hold on, go back. And if you look at the chart, and if you didn't know what the chart was for, This is a classic chart of anything in trend where you take the escalator up and the
Yep.
elevator down.
Yep.
So it'll recover, probably retrace 50% at some point over time. But
Mhm.
this is just a classic chart of a momentum trade
That
finishing off.
that unwinds, and
Escalator up, elevator down.
and the reason that this had such magnitude on our stock market, of course, there was the carry trade of the bonds to the stocks. That's one piece of it. And a part of this is with the anticipation, and I think part of this came last week, the anticipation of the US dropping rates, then the yen with US dropping rates, that changed this dollar scenario because when the US starts to drop rates, the value of the dollar is going to go down over time because people are not going to be buying as many treasuries as
Right.
the rates are going down. So that kind of magnified this whole thing. But why was it such a big deal? Reuters, there's an article that I pulled a piece out of, and this gentleman named, I forget what his name, Michael Malcolm or something like that. He estimated that the dollar yen carry trade grew to at least 500 billion,
More than
which
it.
is not even remotely close. There are some estimates it was as high as $1 to $2 trillion.
I heard it was closer to two. I know we
Yeah.
talked.
And I personally think some of this, 1 to 2 trillion was not okay. We're getting super low rates in Japan and we're buying US dollars through treasuries. I think some of this was all right, we're going to borrow super low in Japan, and then we're going to come over here and we're going to buy the Magnificent Seven. And that had to be unwound really fast as these rates were changing. Otherwise, some of these big hedge funds were going to be caught with their pants down, and so they unwound these trades massively.
And I don't even know how they're even able to measure that. And JP Morgan just came out last night or this morning saying that the unwind of the carry trade is only half over.
Yeah,
I don't even know how they, but that's beside the point.
yeah, and it's still out there, and that's something that I think is going to be. It's something that I will pay much, much more attention to now, from the fact of I just foresee us. We don't, with the current administration, we don't have policies that really encourage a strong dollar. And I think we're just not going to have, I don't know where the dollar is going to go. And especially with rates going down, I'm hearing anywhere from 25 to 75 basis points this
I
month.
understand, and I remember the last three presidents talking about they actually do want a weaker dollar
Yeah.
because that means we can export more, we can produce and export.
Mm,
A strong dollar is great around the world for the imports,
yeah.
but the exports suffer. So anybody, and honestly, we have more multinational companies now, so
Mm,
they actually suffer with a strong
yeah.
dollar, especially if more than 50% of their business is outside of the
Out of
country.
the country. Yeah. And it's, I think it needs to be a happy medium because when we have weak dollar, with so many things are dollar denominated that commodity prices drop and asset prices drop typically in those situations. You've got to have a balance of all that. And you've got to have a balance of fiscal responsibility. You've got to have a balance of a lot of different things today that it's going to affect something when we have changes like that. We can't keep running at the highest point of interest rates. Some of that's going to have to come down. And I personally think some of that's going to happen, whether they want to pull it back or not, because I think with the final straw of employment, yet 1 month does not make a trend complete. It's if we continue to see that going on, you're going to see them start to reduce rates. And you keep hearing about the Fed could do an emergency meeting, and they're not going to do that.
Not on one day's worth of trading and it comes back.
Yeah,
Look, people are talking now a 50% cut
yeah.
in September. I'm still of the ilk. We're not going to see a cut until after the election. We'll see.
I think I honestly, I think things could improve just enough that they go, we're just going to hold for now.
Listen, if people made a living betting on the rate cuts, they would have been out of business a long time ago.
And once again, I'm right there with you. I think it's
Higher for longer. How long? Many
yeah,
times have we
higher
said
for
that?
longer. They kept saying that, and
And oh,
it's
by the
still
way,
right.
what is a quarter of a point or really even a half a point going to do? It needs
Yep.
to come down two and a half,
Yep.
200 to 250 basis points to really have a significant impact. And
Sure.
I was told that if things do come down precipitously, the banks are going to be caught with their pants down
Hmm.
on the risk. And that's another
Yep.
that's a separate conversation
Yep.
because that's a little bit over my pay grade as
Hmm.
far as how all that unwinds.
Yep.
But that's a separate conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Folks, hope you enjoyed this one. Hopefully, you understand the yen carry trade a little bit better now. I tried to simplify it down to the absolute minimums for everybody so we could all understand it. I will tell you if it's still okay, I don't get it or how this all works. Don't worry because even the experts that I've seen on TV have explained this
You can
horribly.
understand the basics. It's the
Yeah,
drill
if you
down.
understand the basics and
Yeah.
you understand what could be still hanging out there, it's why I think both Ron and I are very cautious about putting money to work in this market right now. So thanks a lot. Appreciate you guys, and we will see you here the very next time.